Welcome to Mid-Century Living, your weekly nostalgia podcast about the best of technology and culture from the mid-20th century.
Welcome back to Mid-Century Living, the show where we talk all about the best of the mid-20th century and how to add the vintage vibes to your modern life. We're your hosts, Gonzalo.
And Jackie, thank you for joining us today. So today we're talking about another of my favorite classic Disneyland attractions, Pirates of the Caribbean. But first, Gonzalo, how was your week?
My week was good because by the time this episode comes out, when this episode comes out, yesterday would have been the last day with students before summer break. And
Yay.
Today is the last day where staff is there. So hopefully, by the time that you're listening to this, I'm already out. That sounds like prison. But anyway, I had a very interesting conversation with some of my students. First of all, two things happened. I mean, nothing happened because it's a week before finals. But I had these kids who were talking about their half birthday coming up. And they're like, tomorrow's my half birthday, blah, 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 blah. And I go, oh, well, today's my unbirthday. And it was just like glazed eyes over, like, what? What are you talking about? What's an unbirthday? I was like, what do you mean you don't know what an unbirthday is? And they're like, no, what's an unbirthday? So I was like, okay, well, sit down and let me do you some teaching. And I pulled up Alice in Wonderland on the computer on YouTube, and I played them the clip from the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. They did not enjoy it as much as I did because I was singing along. But that was one thing. The second thing that happened is that one of my students in another class did not know what TBS was, which is, hopefully, for those out there listening, part of cable.
So, I'm ready to talk about cable. So, like...
We were talking about cable before we hit
right,
record.
and then we realized we should save it for the pod. I will circle back to the Disney stuff, because it'll transition nicely into my weekly catch-up. But, so... not understanding what TBS is to me makes perfect sense because I haven't even thought about that channel in 20, 30 years either. Like, the thing is, cable, I think, is gone forever, and our generation is the generation that'll, stop it. Everyone coming after us will have no idea what cable is, and that's fine. Because I love the new system that we've evolved to where you just pay a la carte for the channels you want to stream. But you said you were grumpy about it because you think it costs as much as cable.
Okay, I'm not grumpy about it. I'm just not grumpy.
So
okay, no,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
So I think the problem with this is that you still have the cable mindset, and you think like, oh man, the people who say it costs as much as cable are paying for every channel all the time. And that's not what you do with this new streaming system that we've created. What you do is you pay for the channel to watch the show, and then when the show is over, you cancel that subscription because they do not do anything to you for that. You can always start it up again later, and usually when you start it up again later, they have like a welcome back deal where it's like $3 for the first month before they start charging you the next whatever. And this is so much better than cable. Cable, you were stuck with everything all the time, even if you didn't watch it, and now you only pay for what you watch, and then when you're not watching it, you don't pay for it. This rocks. We've evolved.
But I don't want to evolve out of the cable. No, okay, so here's my thing. First of all, I don't agree that cable's gone forever. I think we are circling back to cable because all of a sudden everyone's merging together. And now you have like Disney that has ESPN and Nat Geo, and then Max has all other stuff. So I feel like we are slowly making our way back to having cable.
You don't mean literally, though. You mean like paying for everything all the time. Like, we're not literally going to plug our TVs into the wall, but...
No, it's still going to be internet-based, but I predict that at some point we're going to have the streaming service.
Yeah, I think we need to not...
Cable.
That's the thing is, the reason why it's happening like that is because they're on to us, or those of us who are doing it properly, which is to say canceling when the seasons are... like, canceling subscriptions between seasons. Because the more they merge, the more content you have... constantly, and then you're stuck.
And that's another thing that maybe
like that's the problem is like I'm paying for like Disney Plus forever now because it also has Hulu. The thing is, yeah, and like if I watch sports, it would be ESPN, and like so there would be always something new to watch. But like HBO Max having all the new movies, like you're kind of stuck with that forever too. And it also
See,
has
cable.
Food Network. So like that's the thing, that's how they get you. But like the individual services like Paramount Plus, which is just Paramount Plus and you just sign up, watch Reacher and leave, like that like we need more of those little guys, but I guess it's not a sustainable business plan for them.
I think we're gonna go back to like the streaming service. It's gonna be 2 or 3. Like there was Time Warner Cable and whatever the other one that no one else had was. But anyways, also like my brain cannot fathom or understand the complexities of having so many options. I get overwhelmed
I love
and then I end up
options.
watching nothing. No, like yesterday we went to a sushi restaurant and I was like, I don't know what to order because the menu was 17 pages long.
We'll agree to disagree on cable. I'm hoping that it stays the way it is because I really appreciate being able to opt in and out of channels, which with cable you could not. The thing is though, like even if it does become like the big 3 streaming services, like it'll probably be what? Disney, HBO, and question mark. Maybe Peacock and Paramount will join forces or something. But you can still, the thing is, you still don't have to pay for all 3. You could just not watch those things.
Hashtag bring cable back.
No. But anyway, so back to Disney, which I didn't. So I have many thoughts on your Alice in Wonderland moment. One, that I think the real problem isn't that they don't know what TBS is. The real problem is that these parents weren't showing their kids the classics. Like, no one should have gotten
Yeah.
to high school without having seen Alice in Wonderland. I think that is a travesty.
True.
Also, it reminded me that we should definitely do an episode on Mary Blair, who is the Disney artist who made, like, the reason why Alice in Wonderland and It's a Small World is so pretty is because of her art style. And I need to do, like, a Disney artist feature, so I need to work on that. But not seeing the classics, I'm apparently going to contribute to it now because my weekly catch-up is how excited I am for the Lilo and Stitch live-action remake.
Oh.
They keep making them, so they must be making money. Luckily, Snow White didn't make any money, so hopefully, they like the thing is they're gonna keep making these as long as people keep seeing them. So we need to stop seeing them so they stop making money because if they're no longer profitable, Disney will stop doing it. And then
Says the girl who's gonna go watch Lilo and
and
Stitch.
then the Lilo and Stitch trailer dropped, and it's so cute. I love Lilo and Stitch. When I got Disney Plus, that was actually the first movie I watched. When I downloaded Disney Plus, I'm like, here I am with the entire Disney library. Everything's at my fingertips. What do I want to watch first? And I went with Lilo and Stitch because it's so stinking cute. It's so cute. Stitch is adorable. And also, his little experiment number, 626, is my birthday. So we have a special bond. And that's the other thing that bothers me about the live action remake is apparently, so Disney just like always has a Memorial Day release. If they had hung in there for a month, they could have released the movie on Stitch Day and it would have also been my birthday and that would have been awesome. But instead it's coming out Memorial Day weekend, but I think it looks adorable and I think they finally figured out one that'll work. Like it actually looks like it'll be a genuinely good, standing on its own, live action movie. Like it's basically the vibe is like live action movie with a dog, you know, like one of those like that they've been making since the 60s, like here's a family and a plucky dog and the dog's getting into the antics and like what is the family gonna do? Like it's basically that vibe. It just like happens to be a CGI alien. Like I feel like it'll actually but then I realized though the dichotomy in saying that this looks adorable and great because that's also, I think, the reason why your kids circling back never saw Alice in Wonderland is because no one's watching the classics anymore because new stuff keeps coming out and like no one's going backwards and watching the library. Like they're just watching the new releases. It's just new releases all the time. And
well,
yeah. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I want to say my 2 cents and we're gonna go straight into the episode because I don't want you angry. I've never seen Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, it's so cute. Yeah, I mean it's fine. The thing is, it's just like an 85-minute little like romp in Hawaii.
Here's the thing. I've never seen it, and I can tell you that I'm going to be upset because the kid's going to fall in love with the alien. The alien's going to have to go back home. The kid's going to be heartbroken. And then at the very last second, the alien's going to be like, but I loved you the whole time.
Yeah, you thinking like E.T. vibes?
Yes, I'm thinking like E.T.
It is not as sad as E.T., but you might cry in one scene.
All right, well, then let's just head on to the mid-century.
I think it's cute, but yeah, definitely watch the animated one first. But anyway, Disney.
Okay.
Which brings us to today's episode. Clearly, we're very passionate about Disney here on Mid-Century.
Have we even mentioned what we're talking about today?
Yes, it did in the intro.
Okay.
So we're very passionate about Disney here on Mid-Century Living, and I wanted to continue, maybe because I'm thinking about Lilo and Stitch and I just got Disney on the brain, but also it's been a couple months since we've done a deep dive on a Disneyland attraction. So today we're going to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean, but first, let's travel back in time to Disneyland in 1967. So in 1967, this was a great year for Disneyland history, actually. Disneyland had been open and wildly successful for 12 years at this point. Since the park opened in 1955, roughly 67 million guests had been in the park, and the number of attractions more than doubled.
By late 1967, almost 5,000 cast members were working in the park. We had Disneyland getting permission from Anaheim to expand its borders, both in the park and the parking lot. However, 1967 also marked the first year that Disneyland and the Disney Company had to adjust to not having Walt Disney around, since he died in December 1966. But the park still featured Walt's special touch. Walt had personally developed and approved all of the park's upcoming changes before he passed. For example, the complete reimagining of Tomorrowland to more completely reflect Walt's vision of the future, the addition of a brand new land, New Orleans Square, and the opening of an attraction that has become one of the most iconic Disney theme park attractions ever made that influenced all future rides, Pirates of the Caribbean.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves, so let's go back to the opening of New Orleans Square. We talked a little bit about New Orleans Square in our Haunted Mansion episode. We'll link that in the show notes if you haven't listened to that. It's kind of a good companion piece to this one since they are both in New Orleans Square. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about the land today because it is really cool. So New Orleans Square was a new area built between Frontierland and Adventureland. Construction for the new expansion began in the early 1960s, and the expansion cost $15 million to build. Walt joked, actually, that the addition cost as much as the Louisiana Purchase, and without adjusting for inflation, it actually cost more.
Huh. The architecture style was inspired by New Orleans French Quarter in the 1850s, complete with iron detailing on railings, windows, long balconies, rounded edges, courtyards, and rows of multiple-story buildings along the riverfront, which is actually Spanish architecture, not French. Herb Ryman, who originally helped Walt draw the first designs of Disneyland, also created the concept art for this new land. New Orleans Square opened on July 24th, 1966, with a dedication ceremony with Walt Disney and the mayor of New Orleans. The mayor was Victor Shiro, who served as mayor from 61 to 1969, which is also the year we went to the moon.
Mm-hmm. Not 1968, but the year after.
There we go. That's a Disney deep connection there for those of you who are Disney millennials.
Yeah, that's a good, that's Disney and cable. So
True. Shiro also used this moment to declare Walt an honorary citizen of New Orleans. This was Walt's last major public appearance in the park before his death. New Orleans Square isn't a square at all, but a series of curved, winding streets. But it gets its name from the Vieux Carré, the historic name for the actual New Orleans French Quarter, which translates to Old Square. The Imagineers actually made sure to get the atmosphere just right. Flowers hanging from balconies, Mardi Gras beats hanging around the area, and live jazz bands playing music through the, quote, streets.
Yes. The goal of the land was actually to focus on providing a dining and shopping experience versus a heavy focus on rides. In fact, there were no rides in New Orleans Square until Pirates of the Caribbean opened a year later, and that even came with its own restaurant.
Ooh, really?
Yes, so the Disneyland version of the attraction has a restaurant built into the show building called the Blue Bayou, which was originally called the Blue Bayou Terrace. The interior actually has this really cool night sky effect, and the theming also includes sounds of crickets and frogs, the glow of fireflies, and projection effects to really make it look like you're sitting in an outdoor restaurant at night. It's very, very cool. And also from the restaurant, you can see the beginning of the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction. You actually see riders floating by in their boats, and then the riders can also see the restaurant's nighttime lighting as they pass by. Like, they work together as the opening scene for the
Oh,
ride.
that's cool.
The Blue Bayou itself was actually ready to open months before the attraction was, but Walt refused to open it because he felt that part of the experience for the restaurant was to see the boats drifting by in the nearby bayou. And he was right. It is beautiful. The Walt Disney World equivalent, we don't have the Blue Bayou in our version of Pirates of the Caribbean, but we have a similar experience in the Mexico Pavilion in Epcot. There's the whole Mexico Pavilion, once you're inside, it looks like you're in an outdoor street market at night. They're doing the same effects that the Blue Bayou does. And there's a boat ride in the Mexico Pavilion that goes through a restaurant that's also in the Mexico Pavilion. Like,
Cool.
it's basically like the Mexican version of the opening scene of the Pirates in Disneyland. It's pretty cool.
Arriba.
So now we'll go back to research and development for the attraction. So 1961, Walt approaches artist Mark Davis to begin work on the Pirates attraction. Here's a quote from Mark Davis in 1998. Walt came to me and said, "Mark, I'd like to do an attraction on pirates. You know, maybe Pirates of the Caribbean." He had come up with the name for it by that casual remark, like he often did. He named the People Mover that way, but thought it would just be a placeholder name and we would come up with something better, but we couldn't.
That's funny.
So, just like the Haunted Mansion, originally, the Pirates of the Caribbean was designed as a walkthrough attraction. The street level was going to be Pirate Alley, like a shopping district, and it was going to be an enormous enclosed area where it was always moonlit twilight. It would include an elegant restaurant located outside a plantation near a bayou, and the attraction itself was supposed to be underground.
And Davis went through 3 different designs of the underground pirate walkthrough. Guests in group of 50 to 70 would walk through a harbor town onto a pirate ship and then through a tavern and a cobblestone town square. There were discussions about having simplified electromechanical pirates narrate the story as guests gazed into various tableau scenes. Electromechanical figures were the forerunners of audio animatronics. They could only repeat 2 or 3 motions, for example, the Jungle Cruise and It's a Small World. A pirate-themed wax museum was also considered, but soon shelved.
Basically, the Imagineers ran into the same problem with the walkthrough for Pirates as they did for Mansion: capacity and storytelling. As Disney legend Marty Sklar later explained, a walkthrough story can be fractured. Some people see one thing and miss another, while others have a totally different experience. While the idea of a pirate-oriented attraction remained appealing, it became clear that a walkthrough would make it difficult to tell a sequence story that all guests would understand. But after the huge success of It's a Small World at the World's Fair, using a boat ride for the Pirates attraction made perfect sense. The boat system in It's a Small World was very efficient at both loading and transporting a large number of guests through the attraction. It was actually capable of handling over 3,000 guests per hour,
Whoa.
compared to the 500 or fewer a walkthrough might accommodate.
It's a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, it's great for capacity.
A huge hole had already been dug for the Pirate Wax Museum, and concrete and steel already laid. So Walt had it all torn out, and his team start over designing the new boat ride, which I think is very much Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just scrap it and restart.
Yep.
The original hole dug for the museum is now the caves before the main show. Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that we can thank World's Fair for, the use of sophisticated audio animatronics. Walt saw how successful the Abraham Lincoln audio animatronics figure was, so it was decided that they would also use this technology for the Pirates of the Caribbean. Which, by the way, is a side tangent. I know that Disney likes to get rid of old cool attractions and replace them with new movie stuff that's all CGI.
Yeah.
I hope they never get rid of the audio animatronics like this.
They have improved them. Tokyo's doing a great job making really, really cool audio animatronics, and we got sort of that style of animatronics in the new retheme for the Splash Mountain attraction, but they break all the time, so I guess we're not there yet. But they have been, they're actually improving that technology. I'm glad that Disney is trying to stay focused on audio animatronics and being the forerunners in the audio animatronic industry. Like that Walt started, they should continue to do. What they should not do is rip out the audio animatronics and start doing like projection stuff like Universal does, where it's all screens. That's trash.
But now that they have the right system back into the Pirates of the Caribbean and technology figured out, it's time to really get to work.
During Mark Davis's research, it turned out that real pirates were not actually as interesting and dramatic as people remembered. So the goal of the new story was to create the world of pirates that people knew from movies and books, instead of a historically accurate one. Davis's specialty was humor, so he used that humor to take the edge off of the pirates' nefarious behavior. Once they had the story figured out, a long model of the attraction was built. The figures were each 9 inches high and could be moved from place to place. It was put up in sections on sawhorses with rings for each scene so that someone could get the same view that the audience would see. A desk chair with rollers was pushed through the path. Walt went through many times and made suggestions and changes.
That's cool.
Isn't that adorable? I love the idea of like someone
Yeah.
just pushing Walt Disney in a desk chair.
Also, the visual of someone, like some poor intern pushing Walt Disney down, and an elderly Walt Disney also, not like spry, we just opened Disney.
Yeah, that's a really funny picture. But I mean, that's a great way to do it. Like you're on a ride, like let's ride through the ride.
Yeah, go through the ride.
Before Walt's death, a full-sized mock-up of the auction scene was set up in a Wed warehouse in Glendale. A dolly with a chair on it was rigged up so that Walt could be pushed through at 2 feet per second, which is the approximate speed of the boats. Walt also got to walk the unfilled flume of the attraction, but there was not much in place in terms of scenery and figures to see.
Getting a chance to walk, even if through the model, I'm sure he had a lot of thoughts about like what the looks of the attraction would be like, and we covered like how they're going to these like animatronic stuff. So we got to talk a little bit about how they designed the pirates themselves. So Walt himself explained the process, noting that the team started with sketches, quote, to figure out the types and the characters. Next, they created the miniature figures, which would serve as the basis for the final audio animatronics. For the most part, the faces of the pirates came from Mark Davis's drawings, but another Imagineer, Blaine Gibson, also added in some faces of people who sat in the pews at his church on Sundays that he sketched when he was bored. Wow, that's
Isn't
funny. And they'll never know.
Well, now they will if they listen to the podcast.
Well, yeah, but you don't know who it is.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if they're just like, wait a minute, that looks like Uncle Jeffrey.
That is Uncle Jeffrey. For example, the pirate in the middle of the trio singing pirates was actually based on a janitor at WED. No names have been given. Fun fact though, several of the sculpted heads are reused throughout the attraction. For example, the character in the chair outside the shack across from the Blue Bayou restaurant was also used as a standing pirate in the jail cell trying to tempt the dog to give them the keys. Oh, I know that one. Imagineers and Disney legends Bill Justice and Wathel Rogers were tasked with programming the pirates. Justice spent 6 weeks programming the famous auctioneer character, the most sophisticated character in the show.
Isn't that crazy? And that's just one character in this whole ride, and it spent 6 weeks. Another thing that took a while were the costumes. So Alice Davis, Mark Davis's wife, was responsible for doing the costumes on the attraction. In the early days, she and her team of 4 costumers would go through each morning and check the costumes, adjust the wigs, and add makeup to touch up the faces of each of the human figures. Here's a funny story from Alice Davis about working on Pirates. So all of these are quotes. I had wanted to make a backup set of costumes for emergencies, but WED President Dick Irvine said it was too expensive and we would worry about doing it later. I realized they had no idea how much it took to make a costume, so I simply ordered twice as much yardage and we made a second set. I just told the bean counters that the costumes cost double what they actually did.
Nice.
About 2 or 3 months after the attraction opened, there was a real fire in the ride in that final burning town scene. Some of the costumes were burned and there were others that were damaged when the sprinklers went on. Dick came to me in a panic and said, Alice, what are we going to do? How long will it take to make new costumes? How much overtime? And so on and so on. I replied, I think we can be ready in about half an hour, and walked over to a cabinet and opened it, and there was a second set. Now they generally make 3 sets of costumes at the same time for any new attraction.
Oh,
Isn't that a great story?
That's funny, though. So the attraction's script and famous song Yo Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me were written by Imagineer Francis Xavier X Atencio. You may remember that X Atencio also wrote the narration script and song lyrics for The Haunted Mansion and Grim Grinning Ghosts. Atencio and Marty Sklar voice directed the performers for the attraction. Paul Frees did the voice of the auctioneer and some of the other pirates. He was also the voice of the ghost host in The Haunted Mansion. Thurl Ravenscroft did several pirate voices. He's best known for the voice of Kellogg's Tony the Tiger for decades and the singer of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. I know both those. His characters on Pirates include the accordion-playing pirate in the trio of minstrels, the drunk pirate hanging out on a lamppost, and he also did the sound and singing or howling dog with the minstrels. He had experience voice acting for dog roles because he also supplied dog sounds in the animated feature Lady and the Tramp from 1955. J. Pat O'Malley also voiced several pirates. He was a popular Disney animated voice actor. I wonder if he's the inspiration for the name
Thomas
for
O'Malley.
the
I
cat.
know. I was
Yeah.
thinking that too.
What's his full name?
Abraham
Oh,
DeLacy.
yeah.
Something something.
Giuseppe Casey. Thomas O'Malley. I'm glad between the two of
Yeah,
us
we
we
got
got
it.
one
Yeah, I
character.
got to rewatch the Aristocats.
Back to J-Pat. J-Pat O'Malley also voiced several pirates. He was a popular Disney animated voice actor who had become notorious as the person who Walt had coached Dick Van Dyke for his Cockney accent in Mary Poppins 1964, which, by the way, he was Irish and not Cockney, and that is why Dick Van Dyke says that his accent was so bad.
Yeah. If he was the guy who came up with that Cockney accent, I guess that means that all these pirate accents are totally made up and ridiculous too. So
Yes. Musician George Bruns composed the attraction's score. Previous credits included co-writing the hugely popular song The Ballad of Davy Crockett.
So now the attraction is open. So Pirates of the Caribbean opened on March 18, 1967. There are 630,000 gallons of water, 53 audio animatronic animals and birds, and 75 audio animatronic pirates and villagers in the ride. The attraction cost more than $8 million and was, maybe is, the longest attraction adventure at Disneyland. The one in Florida is not as long. The Disneyland one really is the superior attraction. It's so good. And the one in Disney World is good. Like, it's a really fun attraction. Last time I went to Disney, I went on it like, for some reason, every time boyfriend and I circled through Adventureland, the wait was really short. So we just like we're like, oh, short wait for pirates. Like, and then we walked around again. It's like, oh, short wait for pirates. And we just like kept going on pirates over and over again. I went on it like 4 times.
See, everyone, we do actual research in this podcast.
But the one, I haven't been to Disneyland in forever. So, but that one it's better. It's longer and better.
I think the only time I've ever been to Disneyland was in 1996.
Yeah.
And for those keeping count at home, it is 2025.
So, for opening day of this attraction, cast members dressed as pirates rounded up all the reporters and held them on the sailing ship Columbia. After celebrating with music and dancing on the deck, they herded everyone off the ship and marched them towards the attraction. There were 2 armed soldiers guarding the entrance, but they were quickly overcome. The pirates used a huge log to smash open the door, and the media entered for the first time.
That's cool.
It sounds like so much fun. Marty Sklar, remembering the original Disneyland attraction, said, "It broke the mold. It created a genre that was so new that everything else that follows has to be measured against it. The one constant at Disneyland is change, and the attraction has had some changes over the years, but it kept the spirit and values that Walt envisioned." Which transitions us nicely into connection to today, which mainly I'm focusing on the ride updates and changes through the years. So, in 1997... they had the Hansi Pirates clean up their act. So basically, in the mid-1990s, park visitors started calling out the attraction's marked displays of misogyny, and the specific scenes in question were the horde of rowdy pirates chasing a group of women through town, and a scene where a pirate is searching for a woman who is hidden and clearly frightened in a barrel nearby. Yeah.
I have thoughts.
So
I'll let you finish.
they redid both of those scenes, and now the pirates are chasing the women in pursuit of food that the women are carrying. So they're still chasing women, but all the women are holding like turkeys. And then the woman in the barrel was replaced by a cat.
Okay.
Fixed it. So a fun fact, I think it's a fun fact. There's an interview in a book where Exitencio was jokingly referring to these softening touches as Boy Scouts of the Caribbean. I honestly think it would be funny to have a t-shirt that said Boy Scouts of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I just always think that's a fun quote.
I have thoughts, and I realize that this is not a historical event, it's an attraction. So, like, yeah, do the changes for the better of the public. But it kind of points to a bigger problem that I struggle with as a history teacher when people are like, oh, we got to get rid of all the bad stuff in history. No, that's what makes history history. History is the bad and the good. You can't just keep the good. That's called rewriting history, and that's just one step away from the main character of 1984.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
and I'm gonna get off my soapbox and talk a little bit about the Hollywood revamp. So in 2006, the ride was refurbished again in order to tie it in with successful Pirates of the Caribbean film franchise. It was filmed to coincide with the premiere of the second Pirates film. 3 Jack Sparrow audio animatronics were added, including replacing the cat in the barrel from the earlier refurb. Captain Barbossa replaced the pirate captain in the battle room, and a waterfall projection of Davy Jones was added to the cave scene. I always wondered if, like, because there's a lot of scenes in the movies that you can and I don't know if you're going to talk about this later or not.
I am not. I
but
actually didn't include anything about the movie.
okay, well then I'll talk about it now real briefly. The one that comes to mind you've already kind of mentioned, because it is the pirates in the jail cell trying to get the keys from the dog.
Yes.
Because in the first Pirates movie, that literally happens.
I didn't include anything about the movie because honestly, I've got like Pirates fatigue from this movie franchise. There's just too many of them and I'm sick of them. And I just like, I wonder if other Disney fans feel the same way. And like, I didn't want to not like waste time, but you know, I didn't want to like dwell on it too much. But it is notable in certain things. One, the Black Pearl, the first Pirates movie, is awesome. And also, it was the first very successful movie based on an attraction. Normally, now attractions are based on movies. And I love that. And also, yeah, like all of the little Easter eggs they threw into the first movie, like the pirates with the dog and the keys, and the pirate like sleeping with the pigs, like Jack Sparrow goes and wakes that guy up, and like a lot of stuff. I think after that first movie, they don't really do that anymore, but there are a lot of really good tie-ins, but the movie stands on its own as an actually good film, and you didn't need to ride the ride to get the movie, and you don't need to watch the movie to do the ride. Like, it was, I thought it was.
But they're nicely, you can tell that they're influenced. I don't know if I've watched 2 through however many. I know I've seen the first one.
The second one was okay. Like, they just get progressively worse, in my opinion. So adding in the movie characters was not the last revamp. There was another quite famous refurbishment in 2018 when the auction scene was reimagined. So, kind of like in the 90s, it was decided that the auction scene was just too problematic to stay in the ride, so a new version was installed. It keeps the idea of the auction, but removes the human trafficking aspect of the scene, and they also changed the redhead into a pirate who was helping the auctioneer sell off loot acquired from the townspeople.
Okay.
The pirate version of the redhead, her name is Red, and they gave her like a whole backstory and line of merchandise, like they were really trying to make fetch happen with this new pirate character. So that's the most famous change from 2018, but the June 2018 refurbishment at Disneyland also included 3 changes to the tunnel scene following the treasure room. The Mist Waterfall and the Davy Jones Blackbeard narration was removed entirely, and the original 1967 narration by Paul Frees was reinstated. And a scene was added to the end of the cave depicting a skeleton transforming into a live pirate as the boat passes by.
Oh, that's cool.
Kind of like in the movie.
I like that they brought back something from the 1960s, like original.
Yeah. They were like, let's work, because they took out something 67, so they put it back. They put something else 67 back in. So
yeah. That's how we should do refurbishments, Disney. I know you listen.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. So we're caught up to the present now, but do you have any more like final Pirates thoughts before we transition into etiquette?
Yes, because I feel like Disney's always changing, which is fine. We got to change with the times. We can't stay stagnant, right? But I feel like more and more the Disney that we experienced as kids doesn't exist anymore, which I'm sure people, when we were kids, the adults were like, the Disney from when we were kids doesn't exist anymore. But I like that we are keeping and revamping, and instead of just demolishing and replacing attractions like Pirates and like the Haunted Mansion. Because, yeah, we gotta, Disney puts out a new movie that's completely new. Yeah, sure, make a ride. But don't discount what built you. Mm-hmm. You can't take out the foundation, because then the house will crumble.
Disneyland is a little bit better about sticking to its roots. They have a lot of attractions that were in Disney World that have since been removed are still in Disneyland, like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Yeah. And to be honest, I feel like that is like the perfect thing. If Disney, if you're out there listening and you want to create new stuff, use Disney World and keep Disneyland as like the heritage
Yeah,
site.
I agree.
That's how I feel about it. But anyway,
But anyway, now we're officially caught up to the present. So, Gonzalo, what do we have for etiquette today?
so a couple of weeks ago, we discussed the differences between the mid-century and modern day etiquette when it comes to cocktail attire. And also, this episode comes out, if my math is right, tomorrow. I'm going to go see a matinee showing. No, not tomorrow. In 2 days. This weekend on Sunday. Not this weekend that we're recording. This weekend when you're listening to this, people. I'm going to go watch a matinee showing of In the Heights. So I wanted to compare the theater etiquette or attire now versus mid-century,
Oh, fun.
especially when it comes to like matinee showings.
Side note, I love that you're seeing a Sunday matinee. That's also my favorite time to go to the theater.
Yeah. There's this thing, and everybody out there who listens in Houston, in October there is theater week, and you can purchase tickets, and they're usually discounted or like buy one get one. And this like it's 1 week, and you can buy tickets for Hobby or Tuts, or I think there was another one. I don't know if the Symphony was involved, maybe. Anyway, this is when we bought it. For all those out there, though, who aren't sure what a matinee showing is, a matinee is simply a performance in the theater or a showing of a movie that takes place in the daytime, so typically before dinner. The mid-century or 1960s attire for it, interestingly, Amy Vanderbilt didn't really have a section on this, which I found weird because it feels right up her alley. But there's a really nice section on the opera attire, which we had to cover because I did not know that opera is formal, but if you're sitting in a balcony, you don't wear the formalist or formal attire.
Huh.
Unless you're going to dinner afterwards.
I thought it would be more formal in the balcony.
I thought so too.
Interesting. Well, we have so much to learn.
I know. But I did other research outside of our most favorite book. In the 1960s, a matinee theater experience typically involved a level of formality, though not as much or as strict as an evening performance. Generally, for women, this often meant a dress, skirt, suit, or jumper. For men, this often meant tailor slacks and a business shirt and tie with a sweater or sports jacket. Tuxedos and full evening dresses are too formal, but overall attendees still maintained a level of formality, even if they weren't wearing that kind of clothes. Here's a more detailed breakdown of the mid-century etiquette. For women, A-line dresses, shift dresses, or midi-length dresses were common. Skirts and tops, like a blouse combinations, often with a tailored jacket or cardigan, were appropriate. And for accessories, finer jewelry, which to me is like not your everyday jewels, but also not bedecked in family jewels. Gloves were often left off in favor of leaving them for formal evenings.
Cool.
For men, tailored suits, slacks that were well fitted, and a dress shirt or a button down. A sports jacket and tie would bring the look to the right level of formality. Accessories like a watch or pocket square were often paired, but tuxedos would make the look too formal, so they were not used.
So kind of like a step down from cocktail party.
Yes.
Okay.
But a step up from like I'm gonna go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like you wouldn't wear your work suit.
Interesting.
Today, matinee performances are actually much less formal than evening shows. It is recommended by the website StyleWHim, which I believe is Style with Him, to wear smart casual attire. A nice dress or shirt and trousers is suitable. Jeans, especially dark or well-fitted jeans, are okay for more casual theaters and casual theater performances, but it's recommended to avoid them.
Oof.
Although I did stumble upon a Redditor in the Our Female Fashionable Advice thread that for ladies, jeans are okay if paired correctly with a classy blouse, sweater, or blazer.
Hard disagree.
Good. This is what I found by scouring the internet through fashion blogs, which was very
informative.
Well, I was gonna say like out of my comfort zone. But anyway, for men, dress pants or khakis, dress shirt, and a blazer or sports jacket. Avoid wearing shorts, jeans, t-shirts, or sneakers. For women, a dress or skirt with a blouse or sweater, or dress pants with a blouse or sweater. Avoid wearing shorts, jeans, t-shirts, or overly revealing clothing. opt for comfortable yet stylish shoes such as loafers or ballet flats. I did stumble upon a page titled "Matinee Attire: Dressing for the Theater in Style" in that awful Lucinda handwriting font, and it had a picture of Alan Cumming, and he was wearing a blue blazer with like a weird pattern, a bow tie, and blue shorts with black shoes, and holding Kristen Chenoweth's hand while she was wearing a formal floor-length silver gown.
Yep.
So like really, I think that matinee showings, just make sure that you and whoever you're going with are on the same page on the level of formality, because that was interesting to say the least. What do you think of this comparison and modern day or 1960s?
I know that I'm
etiquette?
old-fashioned, but honestly, nothing bothers me more than people wearing jeans in a theater. I know that as a society, and particularly in Texas, the idea of dress jeans exists. That's a thing here.
It is a thing, and I think there's a time and a place because, and I don't think it's a theater, and I agree with you on that, because like for example, I've worn my nice jeans with my boots and a vest, like with a white shirt and my Stetson,
Mhm.
to an event that was billed as semi-formal but Western wear appropriate.
Right. Like semi-formal Western wear, I think jeans are totally appropriate in that scenario. Like denim
Yeah,
can be nice. Like you can have elevated denim. But I
yeah,
think for the most part, those are like outdoor events or like, I don't know. To me, jeans are still like workhorse pants that you wear like gardening or working around the house. Like they're supposed to be junky, durable pants. And no matter how clean they are, I don't think that you should wear them to the theater ever.
true. I agree.
Uh,
I'm with you on that.
I like the idea of the vibe being somewhere between business casual and cocktail. Like, especially since we just talked about cocktail attire being like a noticeable step up from business casual.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're somewhere right in the middle between business casual and formal. Like, that's where cocktail is. So this is kind of like a half step between.
Yeah, it's like cocktail light.
Yeah, like cocktail light.
I personally think that you should dress up.
Yeah, I agree. I am more in line with the mid-century attire as well. Like, I
Yeah.
like the idea of it being somewhere in the middle between business and formal, because it is a daytime event. Like, that's the thing, is you don't want to be Kristen Chenoweth in the floor-length silver gown at a matinee performance, so.
Yeah. A daytime event means that there's a possibility of an evening event later on. And there's something to step up to if you're already wearing the formalist of
I
formal.
agree. And that's actually why I
Also,
love
you should never wear tuxedo
matinee.
before 6:30.
That's exactly. Well, that's why I love matinee performances, is because you can go to dinner afterward and talk about the show you just watched. Like, it makes like a whole day event out of it, which I really appreciate, as opposed
Yeah.
to if you go to an evening performance, you're eating dinner first and you just talk about how excited you are for the play you're about to see. Like, it's more fun if you can talk about it afterward. But that's just me.
Yeah. I still, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, like, dress up. Life's too short to not dress up. Oh, and again, people are going to be like, life's too short to be uncomfortable.
Well, then find
suck it up,
comfortable
buttercup.
dress clothes. That's the thing, is like,
Yeah.
if you're uncomfortable in it, don't wear that. Find something you're comfortable in and wear that instead.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying we had to, like, go back to Edwardian times and, like, you know, live by the gong and, like, dress for dinner in your floor-length gowns and white jackets. Although, I'm not going to lie, if I was rich and I had a giant house, and, like, I had, like, stupid amounts of money, I would totally be like, okay, staff, we're going to have butlers and footmen, and we're going to live according to the Edwardian time.
I love that.
I'll pay you accordingly.
I love that that's the kind of eccentric millionaire you'd be, and I hope that if you ever win the lottery, that's exactly your vibe. I'm going to hold you to it.
That would be my eccentric millionaire, billionaire lifestyle. Anyway, I think that we're good to approve the mid-century etiquette, right?
Yes.
Cool. Well, then with that, I think we have finally landed the plane, or have finally gotten off the Pirates Caribbean ride. Thank you guys all for listening today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show and tell a friend.
You can also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at MCL Podcast. Instagram is the best place to send us feedback and episode suggestions. Send us a DM anytime, and you can also contact us through the Send Us a Text Message feature in our show notes.
yeah, so send us some fan mail. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Mid-Century Living. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. See you next Friday.